I love it when synchronicities happen together. I'm not going to get into the story, but it's just really interesting how things just seem to flow when you're in that flow. So today we're wrapping up our series on Back to the Unity Basics. And I wanted to shed some light on the Sunday traditions that are unique in many ways to Unity communities. You know, anytime you have an organization, whether it's spiritual or otherwise, over time, there seems to be a certain solidifying of it. No matter how free flowing it started out, it begins to have a more solid surrounding. And it's true for Unity. As free as and individualistic as Unity people and Unity communities are, there are things over time that have come to, in many ways, define us, or at least you are accustomed to whatever Unity church you go to having that same similar experience. Unity's been around since 1889, and when the Fillmores started this, they were just discovering through their own spiritual study and through their own healing experiences some of these principles. And it certainly didn't begin or even have the vision that this would somehow be a group of churches or that there would be this whole structure that would be built out of their ideas. The very first service was in 1890, and it was a healing service that Myrtle invited people over to their home because this was her passion, to support other people in experiencing their own healing. And for more than 135 years, Silent Unity, which is that prayer arm of Unity, has been supporting people. They now get way in excess of a couple million prayer requests a year, and most of those come from people outside of Unity churches or different Unity communities. In fact, Charles was pretty resistant. He didn't want to start a new denomination. He wasn't looking to create some big structure. He would encourage people to go and attend whatever church that they had traditionally belonged to, and then he would have like a study group in the afternoon. It's like, bring the message that you heard and let's see if we can understand it in a metaphysical way, in a new way. But eventually the demand became so great that they built the first church on Tracy Street. It's still there. I think it's still open. The Reverend Greg Nettler has been passionate about it since the 80s of retaining that part of our history. And now there are, and since that time, thousands of churches that have been created, or at least a little more than 1,000 these days. The form continued as it got bigger and bigger. So then they had to start putting some things into place. And they started ordaining Unity ministers and adding and suggesting different elements to support a service experience for people. And again, as different as Unity churches might feel, the message might be different, the music might be different, there was some common components that seem to emerge as being present in each one. One of those is certainly been a foundational part of this church since its beginning, which is the peace song that we sing at the end of every service. And I learned some new things about this. I love when I'm exploring new stuff because I get to learn new stuff. You know, the first time I ever really remember being engaged with it was coming to my first Unity church. But it has origins that I never knew about. In the summer of 1955, lyricist, and she was also an actress, Jill Jackson Miller, and her musician husband, Cy, were listening to this radio program. And the radio program at that time, the theme was that for peace to become a reality, it must first begin in the hearts and in the practice of each individual. One of her daughters, who was a teenager at the time, said that her mom woke up one morning and this phrase, "Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me," was running through. And so she and her husband set about putting this to music. I didn't know that Jill and her husband were part of the Unity movement, that she was first introduced to Unity through her physical therapist after an attempted suicide, trying to live in the 50s as a single mom and barely being able to make ends meet. And Jill credited Silent Unity and New Thought principles with helping her regain her life. So this peace song now has been translated into many languages. It's been heard by worldwide audiences, both large and small. It was the final song performed at the Christmas holidays illumination at Epcot Center. It was performed for Pope Francis at the World Trade Center site in New York City in 2015. It's in many different Christian hymnals now in churches across. They've adopted it and use it as part of their services. And it found even greater popularity in 1993 when Vince Gill featured it on a Christmas album. And a much wider audience became aware of it. Now, what often happens, at least in Unity, probably not in some of the other traditions, is we take something and then we mess with it. We like to tweak it and change it. And so the Let There Be Peace on Earth original lyrics go like this. There's one part that's been tweaked, and I've seen it done so many different ways. But it says, with God, our Creator, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Close, but a little. We sing, with God as our Father, family all are we. Let us walk with each other. When I went to serve the Unity community in Roanoke, Virginia, they had changed it, so instead of let there be, they would say yes. So yes, there is peace on earth. And yes, it begins with me. And yeah, so they added yes instead of let because they wanted it to be affirmative. It takes a little while when you go from one Unity church to the other. They say the blessing is a little different, the way they sing songs is a little different, but it has the same energy. It's just a unique reflection of the community and the leadership of that community. And following the peace song, what do we have? The prayer for protection. Byron sang it for us earlier today as we started the service. And the prayer for protection is something that's been in the Unity community since the 1940s. It was written in 1940 by Unity minister and author and poet James Dillett Freeman. Some of you might be a little familiar with this. And he was asked to write this during a Christmas service to address the growing war that was happening in Europe at that time. Something that could help the people move through that with a greater sense of connection to God and to that peace and to the love and to the courage and support of it. So in its original form, this is what he wrote. He wrote, "The light of Christ directs me, the love of Christ enfolds me, the power of Christ protects me, the presence of Christ upholds me." And it seemed to resonate with so many people that they came back to him and they said, we really would like to offer this in a greater way rather than just at this Christmas service. And so he thought about it and he wanted to make it more universal. He wanted to make it a prayer so that anybody, regardless of what their theological beliefs were, could embrace it. And so he changed the words a little bit to what we know now as the light of God. He just changed the Christ to God, which was more universal. And then he got inspired a little while longer, a few years into this, that it needed maybe a little something else. And so he added a fifth line that said, wherever I am, God is. And then over time, especially once he passed, we started to even we added a sixth line. And what's the sixth line? And all is well. This prayer has been printed and distributed and used around the world many times over. It's probably the most prolific Unity prayer out there in the world, whether people know that it has its roots in unity. It's been in hundreds of different publications with no connection to unity, and millions of people have carried it around. They produced all these little cards, and they would put it in their pocket, or at the time what they called their pocketbooks, for the women carrying purses. On the very first flight to the moon, on Apollo 11, astronaut Colonel Edwin Buzz Aldrin carried the prayer for protection with him. And he did not know James Dillard Freeman. He wasn't even aware of unity. It was just one of those prayers that he had found, and he brought it with him so that he could feel that same connection and know those words were with him as part of that. It's been translated into most languages, and it's another one of those traditions that you will find almost every Unity church ends their service with the prayer for protection. It's not a prayer to God out there. Rather, it is a prayer that invites us to remember that God within us, to realign with that inner divinity, the Christ within, whatever name we want to call that, so that we can tap into greater spiritual understanding, which is the light of God, that we can remember that there is unlimited supply, which is the love of God, that there is intense creative potential within us, which is the power of God, and the awareness of our true being, which is that very presence within us. It's not something that we just project out there. It's something that we want to embody in here. So another change that's happened over time, at least it's happened in this ministry, you won't find it as often, is adding this second line to each of the lines of the prayer for protection. And we now say that the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. But here's another way. Unity on the Bay in Miami, I ran across this as another way that they often say it. Nick, you can put that up. It says, the light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are that power. We are that presence. And then they end it with, we are divine. So that creative energy is hard at work within Unity communities about how this feels best for them. Today, I want to do something a little different, because when we have this, the light of God surround me, I'd like to do it as a call and a response, if you'd be willing to play with me on this. So I'm going to say, the light of God surrounds us, and you're going to say, I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. So we're going to have a little play to see how that feels today, because, you know, we're always changing and evolving, so we have to be in that energy. You know, even after 20 years, several more years than 20 years, it still brings a joy to my face. It is, I don't know, an indescribable sense of connection when I see at the end of the service everyone standing and holding hands and smiling at each other and singing these words together and affirming these statements of truth together. There's just nothing else like it. So in my ministry, even though I want the community to have a big voice in how it is that we do Sunday services, it's probably not going to go away, because I'm going to be one that'll be really reluctant to let go of that last little piece. So today, as we move into our meditation, we want to take this prayer for protection and see how we can experience that and embody that within us. So I would just invite you to just set everything aside for this moment. This is that sacred time where we, for just a couple of minutes, want to bring all that we've heard and all that we know and all that we desire to experience into this present moment. You might want to close your eyes just so that you can have a greater experience of this inner light and life, expressing as love and power through us. Claim for yourself in the very heart of your being that I am the light of God. And then listen for how that divine energy is calling you to express as light. Just see if anything arises out of that knowing that that light of God is seeking to express through you. And then see if you can feel that love of God enfolding you, infusing you, awakening every cell of your being, so that you can claim, I am the love of God in its full measure. And then just listen for a minute to see if there's something stirring within you of how to be a greater expression of that love into the world. Now see if you can't claim the very power of God as your very own in this moment. That power of God guides us, protects us, and lives within us. What is calling for you to claim greater power in the expression of God's love and God's light? I am the very presence of God. Silently repeat that. See if you can't get that deep into your heart, deep into your gut, into your soul. I am the presence of God. God, how would you have me be a presence in the world? And regardless of what might be happening in your life, in the greater community, in the world, know that God is right in the midst, because God is in the midst of each and every soul. God is in the midst of Mother Earth. God is in the midst of the unfolding universe. And we are a part of that divine unfolding. Take a deep breath and see if you can't feel that awareness that indeed all is well. And whenever you're ready, you can begin to bring your attention back to this time and to this space, giving thanks for this beloved prayer and for the ways in which it can help us remember and support and guide us in the work that is ahead of us. And so it is, and so we allow it to be. And whenever you're ready, bring yourself back here. So as we start to wrap up the message of this morning, I wanted to share another foundational part of unity, and that is silent unity and its offshoot, the daily word. As I mentioned, for more than 135 years, silent unity, and this is the beautiful tower in that building at Unity Village that's located in Unity Village. It's around Lee's Summit, but it's its own incorporated village, has been the prayer arm, and that light has been constantly shining, not in that one particular place, but in wherever that silent unity location was, 24/7, to remind the people that there is that prayer energy that is being held by the people who support Silent Unity around the clock. All of the prayer requests that we receive here are also then embodied by the prayer ministry of Silent Unity for 30 days. And out of Silent Unity, there arose this divine idea of a little daily prayer booklet, something that could help inspire people, that could help start their day off right by reading this. Daily Word is now read in more than 100 countries. It's been translated into 4 languages. It is celebrating its 100th year this year. And it has been in continuous publication from its beginning. It has tens of million readers around the world. The vast majority of those may never know Unity and the place from which it comes from, but it blesses their lives each day. I can remember back when I was working in corporate world, before I ever knew about Unity, seeing these on people's desks that they would bring, and that they would have their time where they'd go through and read, and especially over lunchtime, and just have that be a reset for their day. As in all things, we have them in print. You can actually get them in our bookstore here. And there's an app. There's an app for everything now. It's a new app I just discovered. It's called be.unity.org. And in that app, it's a web-based app. You can submit prayer requests directly to Silent Unity. You can read the Daily Word with subscription. It is a subscription-based offering. And one of the things that I loved about how long this has been going on is that you can look in their archives and look up on any given date since 1924 and see what the Daily Word was that day. It used to be you had to go to Unity Village and you had to go to their library, and there was huge racks, and you had to find the literal pamphlet, Daily Word, and then go to their copier. And I did this. I did this back in like 2000. And I did it for my daughter, for her birthday. I made a bunch, guys, here's your Daily Word on the day you were born. But here's the Daily Word on the day that I was born in 1959. And it just resonates with me still. I claim this. This is what the universe was claiming for me on that day. It says, "There is nothing to fear. Through Christ in me, I meet life courageously. I am strong and courageous. I meet life victoriously. Nothing can daunt me, for I have the Spirit of Christ within me. I do not depend on other persons, nor do I encourage other persons to depend on me. Rather, I depend on the Christ Spirit within me, and I pray for other people to depend on that same indwelling Christ. If a situation appears to be unjust, I realize that there is nothing to fear. I can trust the Spirit of Christ working in each person to inspire to deal justly with every other person concerned. And if circumstance is challenging, I remember through Christ in me, I am equipped to meet life courageously. When I meet life this way, nothing can burden me. I walk with a light step and a happy heart. If there are changes that shake my faith, I turn to the Christ within and find a new sense of security. There is nothing to fear. Through Christ in me, I meet life courageously." I was blessed with that on the day I was born. So I just encourage you, if you're curious, go. You can, again, any date in history since 1924, you can go and read what the Daily Word was that day. You know, we're living in a very fast evolving world where change just seems to be occurring at lightning speed. At least it feels that way to me. Some things fade away, like we used to sing the Lord's Prayer here. I can still remember you hitting that high note every Sunday. Some things change form, other things emerge. Traditions, the ones that are traditions for us, they may not be the traditions of future generations, keep us grounded. They remind us that even in times of rapid change, we can move through it all when we stay humble and kind. Well, it is our opportunity now to share of our financial gifts with our community. All right, let us take the gifts that we're offering today, or you can just feel that energy as they're moving through the ether waves as we share them electronically and bless it together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother God.
Why don't we all stand together? We're going to join hands and do our peace song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. When God as our Father, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be a moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. Take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with.
So join me as we do our prayer for protection. Let's try it as a call and response. I'm going to do the first line and then you do the second. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Now all together, wherever we are, God is, and all is well.